Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So, this is the second episode in our little series celebrating our 200th podcast episode. So, we've done a lot more than 200 episodes, but 200 Thursday episodes. And I did this for the 100th episode, and y'all loved them. So, I wanted to take some of our most popular topics and episodes and combine them into some summary episodes. And it feels like lately, over the last year or so, zone 2 cardio has been all the rage. Some people thinking it's absolutely necessary, others thinking it shouldn't be a priority. And it feels like I've done a few podcast episodes about cardio and zone 2 cardio, and they've been really popular episodes and topics. So I wanted to kind of discuss it all today. So, zone 2 cardio is steady state activity that you can sustain for extended periods of time at about 60 to 70% of your heart rate max. It's cardio that feels like maybe like a 5 or 6 out of 10 in terms of effort. Depending on your age, it could be anywhere from 99 to 115 beats per minute. But rather than relying solely on heart rate zones, which can vary between individuals, a more precise definition would be the level of activity where your body is using oxygen and burning fat, but hasn't yet produced lactate as a byproduct. Using oxygen is an aerobic process. Your body uses oxygen to break down fat to create energy efficiently. This process is very sustainable. You can keep it up for a long period of time, which is why you feel like when you're doing zone 2, you could go forever and ever. The use of oxygen to fuel your movements creates two main byproducts, either carbon dioxide, which you breathe out, or water, which you sweat out. You can continue this form of exercise, like I said, for a long time since you aren't creating lactate as a byproduct. People hear that zone 2 burns fat, and therefore they think it's more effective for fat loss than other forms of exercise. However, the amount of fat burned, even in a really long cardio session, is relatively minimal. Your overall calorie deficit, mostly from food, will be what causes fat loss, not necessarily adding in a ton of zone 2 cardio, although it can help a little bit. You can tell you're in zone 2 cardio by doing what's called the talk test. So you can still breathe in and out through your nose, but it's maybe becoming a little bit more challenging, and you can speak to someone maybe that you're walking with, but not sing. If you have to pause every 3 words, you've likely pushed into zone 3 or beyond, and you aren't going to get the same metabolic benefits, which I'll talk about here in a moment. So, how does zone 2 cardio improve your metabolic health? Zone 2 cardio is shown to improve mitochondrial efficiency and mitochondrial density. When you improve mitochondrial efficiency through zone 2 training, you enhance your metabolic flexibility or your body's ability to switch between using fatty acids or glucose for fuel. Improving your metabolic flexibility can help regulate your energy levels throughout the day, improves your appetite control, it helps enhance your focus, and can even help with body composition since your body becomes more efficient at using fat as fuel. Additionally, zone 2 cardio improves your heart's stroke volume or how effectively your heart can deliver blood to your body, which not only benefits your longevity, but also can translate into improvements in other workouts. For example, if you have better overall cardio, you'll be less limited in your lifting sessions by your heart rate. So the limiting factor will be your muscles, which is what we want when it comes to lean mass development. We don't want you to be limited by your cardiovascular health. What makes zone 2 particularly attractive is that it's gentle on your body, especially when you compare it to other forms of cardio like high intensity workouts or even kind of zone 3 classes or like boot camp, spin classes, things like that. You won't feel as wrecked. You won't feel like you need to take recovery from zone 2 cardio. You won't feel exhausted afterwards. And yet you're still getting really profound health benefits. So, what are the differences between zone 2 cardio and zone 3 cardio? In a cardio session, you may be kind of crossing into multiple zones, maybe zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, 4, 5, and that's okay. If you find yourself having to pause every 3 words, you're likely in zone 3 or beyond. If you can no longer maintain nasal breathing, you're likely in zone 3 or beyond. Zone 3 is not bad or wrong, and it can absolutely have positive effects on your cardiovascular health. However, it's been called no man's land by some experts because it doesn't have the powerful mitochondrial benefits as zone 2, yet it isn't intense enough to have the metabolic benefits of zone 4 or zone 5, like sprint training. However, zone 3 can be more stressful on your body, like I said, making it harder to recover. Sweaty kind of boot camp spin classes may leave you gassed and wrecked, and maybe primarily in that zone 3, but don't necessarily create as powerful adaptations that we're looking for when it comes to the adaptations that we're getting from zone 2, so that improved mitochondrial efficiency and density. Again, do not fear or avoid zone 3. It's just not something that I would prioritize as much as your strength training work, potentially sprint training, so zone 4 or zone 5, and then your zone 2 cardio as well. But since zone 3 burns a lot of calories, it tends to be where many group fitness classes fall. And it tends to be what people think is the most effective form of cardio, when in reality, we're looking at what are the metabolic changes that we're getting from cardio, less about the calories burned while you're doing it. So, what are the arguments against zone 2 cardio? Although zone 2 is being touted as necessary from some researchers and experts, others disagree that it's that necessary. Some are challenging this idea that you need to really prioritize zone 2, saying that it might not be super necessary for women specifically. One key argument comes from researchers or experts who point out that women naturally have physiological advantages that may make zone 2 less critical for them. Specifically, women are already better at oxidizing fat and are naturally more metabolically flexible. They typically have a higher percentage of type 1 muscle fibers, which are the fibers that zone 2 cardio aims to stimulate. So, this suggests that women might already have some of the metabolic advantages that zone 2 training is meant to develop. I don't think these experts are saying don't do zone 2 cardio or avoid zone 2 cardio. They're just saying that women may not need to prioritize it over HIIT or strength training, hypertrophy training. And I do tend to agree. I think that if we're just looking at what should be the priority for women, I think hypertrophy training and strength training, number one. And then from there, maybe adding in your sprint training, your zone 4, your zone 5 in small little doses. So, you know, 2 15 to 20-minute sessions per week does not need to be a lot. So, how does zone 2 cardio affect your body composition? Zone 2 cardio has an interesting relationship with body composition, but it's not what you would expect. Yes, staying overall active will help keep your energy expenditure higher, but it's less about the calories that you're burning during your workout, like I mentioned earlier, and more about how zone 2 can improve your metabolic flexibility. Calorie expenditure is constrained, it's not additive. The amount of calories we burn starts to plateau as we reach a certain level of activity, around 800 active calories per day. This is something I talk about all the time. So, if you're staying overall active, you're likely hitting your calorie burn plateau and don't need to focus on exercise just with the intention of burning extra calories. So, zone 2 cardio alone isn't really going to dramatically change your body composition because, number one, it's not really about the calories that you're burning during your workout. It doesn't have a huge impact on fat, but it also won't build a significant amount of lean mass, which is a critical piece for overall body composition. This is why I recommend prioritizing hypertrophy training first. When you combine strength training with zone 2 cardio, you kind of get the best of both worlds. So you have a hypertrophy routine and then you're adding in zone 2 cardio in addition to that. You're building lean mass through your hypertrophy routine, through your strength training routine, while also improving your metabolic health. And remember, if fat loss is a specific goal of yours, your nutrition has to be dialed in. You have to be in a calorie deficit, mainly from food, as exercise alone, whether it's zone 2 or any other type of exercise, isn't really going to be the primary driver of fat loss. Next, let's talk about walking. Walking is a topic that you all love to learn about. I did several episodes this year about walking, and they were some of the most popular episodes, which just goes to show that y'all love to walk, and I do too. So, how does walking play into this? Is it considered zone 2 cardio? So, whether walking counts as zone 2 cardio really depends on your fitness level and how you're walking. For some people, particularly those who are just starting the fitness journey, a brisk walk might get them into that zone 2 sweet spot where you can still breathe in and out through your nose, but it's becoming more challenging and you can still speak, but it's getting maybe more difficult. I personally do walking as my zone 2 cardio. I have a lot of hills in my neighborhood. And so I find that walking, especially brisk walking, will get me into zone 2 cardio. However, for many people who have been working out consistently, regular walking might not get them into zone 2. They may be more of a zone 1 activity where you can comfortably talk with really no effort and breathe really easily in and out through your nose. So, when it comes to walking for body composition benefits, research shows some interesting thresholds. So, like I said earlier, exercise in general doesn't have a huge effect on fat loss, but walking, especially if you're going from being sedentary, may cause a little bit of fat loss. When you go from being sedentary to adding, 7,500 to 10,000 steps per day, you may see a little bit of fat loss. But here's the thing, adding more walking beyond that about 10,000 steps per day doesn't necessarily accelerate fat loss. There's a point of diminishing returns. The benefits of walking exceed beyond 10,000 steps per day, but they do plateau after about 10,000 steps. And this could be because this is at the place in which your calorie expenditure plateaus, like I talked about earlier. But what's really interesting is that intensity matters too. You want to hit at least 100 steps per day. So that's kind of your like moderate intensity threshold, and walk in bouts of at least 10 minutes for optimal benefits. If you are taking a 30-minute walk, for example, you should aim for about 3,000 steps during that time. So that's about that 100 steps per minute intensity. Walking brings so many benefits beyond just body composition. It's fantastic for your cardiovascular health without beating up your body like some higher intensity workouts might. It can actually improve your lifting performance by keeping your overall activity high and improving your cardiovascular health without interfering with your recovery from strength training. There's also an interesting hormonal component. Walking helps regulate cortisol levels, especially when done outdoors, which may help with fat metabolism and insulin sensitivity. And as I discussed on my podcast with Nicole Vignola, a neuroscientist, walking engages part of your brain that competes with anxiety pathways in your brain, making it a really important and powerful tool for mental health. So, this stress reduction aspect isn't just good for your mind, but by managing cortisol through regular walking, you're also supporting better insulin sensitivity, which can positively influence body composition. So, that's walking. In short, does walking count as zone 2 cardio? For some of us, yes. And if you're walking on some hills, yes, it might. Or if you're walking fast, it might. But again, you might just kind of take some inventory on your next walk. Notice, okay, can I really easily breathe in and out through my nose? You're probably in zone 1. I don't overthink it. I just try to stay active. And maybe parts of my walk, I'm in zone 1, and parts I'm in zone 2, and maybe parts I'm in zone 3 if I'm going up a steep hill. I don't overthink it. Just try to stay active. So, what are my recommendations for zone 2 cardio? Let's be really honest about what to prioritize. Start with strength training. That is going to be your bread and butter. I like to think about strength training as the cornerstone and building in cardio from there. The reason is simple. It's going to be your catch-all exercise that provides incredible bang for your buck. When you build lean muscle tissue through hypertrophy training, you're improving metabolic flexibility, things that cardio also does. You're improving your bone density. You're improving your insulin sensitivity. You're improving your overall metabolic health. You're improving your body composition. Plus, muscle is harder to lose than cardio adaptations. So you're making a long-term investment that gives you this kind of buffer when life inevitably happens and you need to back off exercise. I do think it's ideal to add in zone 2 cardio. We recommend 150 minutes of light to moderate intensity cardio each week in addition to your strength training routine. Most of that can be in your zone 2. But don't feel like you have to do it all at once or land every single minute of that 150 minutes in zone 2. Start by getting consistent with your strength training, consistent with your protein intake, consistent with some regular walking. And once all of that is solid, you can slowly start to pay attention to, okay, how much of my cardio minutes are in zone 2? And maybe getting a little more precise with it. I think that for most of us, myself included, the main health benefits are going to come from being active overall. So keeping your step count high, I recommend at least 7,500 steps per day, and strength training. And if you're doing that, then you can slowly add in your cardio from there. But again, if you're hitting that kind of low-hanging fruit, building muscle, trying to stay overall active, you're going to get the majority of the health benefits, feel good, and live a really long and healthy life. All right, I hope this was helpful. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.